Hey, thanks for joining me. I'm Andrew Axum with Axum Outdoor Adventures, and today I wanted to take a few minutes to introduce you to a hobby that I've enjoyed for many years. It's a hobby that can be enjoyed on its own or in conjunction with other hobbies and activities, and it can also be enjoyed inside or outside, and I'm talking about the hobby of radio. I've been an amateur radio operator or a ham radio operator since 1994. That's when I took the test to get my license. Back then, there was a requirement for Morse code on the test. I don't believe that's the case anymore. I think most of the license classes that you can get without taking a Morse code test. So it's a lot easier to get involved in the hobby today than any time before. It's also not a super expensive hobby these days. This particular radio that is my daily carry is a Yaesu FT60. This is a dual band radio that will transmit on VHF or UHF, specifically the 2-meter ham band or the 440 centimeter ham band. And these radios have come down a lot in price over the past few years. I am looking on Amazon, and you can currently find one of these for $189.95. This is, again, a dual band radio. Puts out 5 watts of power, so that's more power than you're going to legally be allowed to run on a CB or Citizens Band radio. One of the hobbies I enjoy taking my radios along with me on is when I go hiking, especially if you're going to be back in the forest or the woods where you may not have a cell signal. It's great to have one of these. Again, this puts out 5 watts. Recently, we took a cross-country drive from Portland, Oregon, back here to Bloomington, Indiana, and I took this radio along the trip with me, and just with a couple of little Google searches on my phone, I was able to find the local radio repeaters of whatever town we drove through. We're fortunate enough where I live to have an amateur radio club and a pretty active amateur radio community, so there's a lot of repeaters around here. But across the country, most places have at least 1 or 2 repeaters that are open to the public. And all I did was do a Google search for whatever town we were in's repeater, plug that information into my radio, and now all of a sudden this radio will link up to a repeater that's usually located on top of a high point, and it will increase your range so you can talk quite a ways on just a little 5-watt handheld radio. On that same trip, we were able to take along a couple of little FMRS radios, which I believe stands for Family Mobile Radio Service. And it's kind of the modern day equivalent to a CB radio. You don't have to have a license to operate these. And they're pretty affordable. These are Cobra Microtalk. And a set of these on Amazon is just about $30. So when we drove back from Oregon, my wife and I were in one car, our daughter was in another car, and her boyfriend was in a moving truck. And every vehicle had one of these in there, and they're just great for being able to communicate back and forth from car to car if somebody needs gas or if somebody needs to stop at a rest area or for food. These are really great for things like that. You can also use these like at festivals if you're going to be separated from each other. I know most people have text on their phone these days, but if you have some kids that don't have a phone, you know, it's a lot more affordable to give them a $30 radio, or $15 if you divide it by 2. And if they lose that one, it's a lot more replaceable than a cell phone. So they definitely have their advantages as far as communications in that way. Now, the one thing about radio that's different from a cell phone, and I think sometimes people these days forget it, is that anything you transmit over these is over the public airwaves. So you don't want to be giving, you know, any personal information, but they're great for just a quick, I need gas, I need a rest stop, where are you? And also you could use those at amusement parks. There's a lot of uses for the FMRS radios. But if you do want something with a little more power and that offers you a few more options as far as the hobbies, again, you can get your ham license. I think it's a 35-question written test these days. And there are different levels of licenses that you can get that will afford you more privileges on different bands. But speaking of the price of radios, That is a Yaesu, and as I said, they're about $189 for that particular dual band, but there's some other options. There's a company called Baofeng. I don't have any of their radios, but I've seen quite a few reviews. And right here, I'm looking at a Baofeng. Looks like it's a 2-meter radio that also produces 5 watts. And those are $45.75 on Amazon. There are some other options, but they're all fairly affordable. So now I'm going to take you down the hall to the room that I have my little Radio Shack set up in, and I'll show you my indoor setup. So let's take a peek in the shack real quick here. So I located my Radio Shack here on the top floor of my house, and I did that because there's actually attic access in here, and I run some of my coax up there. I just happened to put my antennas in the attic. We have a attic that is steeply pitched enough that I can put some antennas up there and keep them protected from the elements. That workbench was already in here, and I do some light IT work on the side, and so this was a great place to be able to do that kind of work. Here is a computer that I have in here for being able to keep track of radar and different things whenever I participate in the severe weather nets. And there's a poster my wife got me with some ham radio information from around the world. And I've got some maps and stuff in here where I log different contacts I've made. But one of my old license plates from 1996. So here is my 2-meter radio. And I have some of the local repeaters programmed in there. I'll just flip through, and probably not anybody on right now. There's not as many people active on 2 meters as there was back in the 90s and early 2000s, but it's still great for a lot of things. Here's another thing you can actually listen to the
temperature of 60.
Local National Weather Service on here.
Skies ranged from sunny to mostly sunny.
So I'll call out on the local station here and just see if I happen to reach anybody. This is N9WOU listening. This is N9WOU listening. Sounds like somebody's trying to come back to me on the Bloomfield repeater there, but they're not quite getting in. This is N9WOU listening.
Good afternoon. This is the K9PYI repeater 88.5 Hertz TL.
All right, well, I didn't currently reach anybody on the local 2-meter repeaters, but it's the middle of the day. Traffic on there seems to be more around drive time when people are going into work or coming home. A lot of people have the radios in their car. And severe weather, when it rolls through, 2-meter really seems to pick up. That's where they hold a lot of the Skywarn severe weather nets and stuff. So it has its moments, but right now, there's just not currently anybody on there. So I'm going to take you around, show you a couple of the other radios I have in my house and different aspects of the hobby. So I will just call out real quickly my call sign and announce that I'm listening on one of the local repeater systems and see if anybody comes back to us. This is N9WOU listening.
N9WOU.
Good afternoon, Russ. How you been? Well, unfortunately, I didn't realize it was my day off when I scheduled a 7 o'clock a.m. doctor's appointment.
I had an additional comment to call a residential provider for having to request a Signal 6 from one of you guys.
That was the same mail that was on scene. You can just come to the Springs resident. But I'll take a look at it here in a few minutes.
Okay, this is a digital scanner that picks up police and other public service frequencies. My wife got this one for me for Christmas last year. I used to be heavily into scanners back in the old analog days, but when they made all of the local signals digital, the price of the radios jumped up quite a bit. When they initially came out, I think something like this was about $800 to $1,000. And now they're down around the $300 range. So a lot more affordable. They program differently than the old scanners in that you have to have a computer to program it. You can't just type in the old analog frequencies. So that part is not as convenient. But what is really nice about these is once you put in your area, this kind of pulls in a whole package of all the public service and ham radio frequencies and stores them all in there for you. So you only have to do it once, and it'll keep, you know, the local stuff in there for you. You don't have to search for all of the different agencies. This just kind of has everything there in one digital package that you put into your radio. And after you're done programming it, unless you want to listen to a different area, that's all there is to it. Okay, so that is public service scanning, and really enjoyed that aspect of the radio hobby as well. Sort of the last little piece of my radio ensemble. And that is this little radio I have here. I know it's kind of dark out here, but that's a radio I found on Amazon. I think I paid like $29 for it. It's just a little AM/FM radio, but this actually has shortwave on it as well. So you can pick up some shortwave reception from other countries a lot of times. So yeah, shortwave is available to you for as cheap as $30 if you're interested in that.
I got to go back to Bristol and to Beckley for a meeting on Thursday. So
different public news.
You like to go live on the moon?
I don't think so.
I don't know why they are hoping so high. Because I don't see any trees or any interesting things.
So that, in a nutshell, is the radio hobby as I happen to enjoy it. I use it in conjunction with my other hobbies like hiking, and I take it out and listen to it while I'm shooting slingshots sometimes. You'll hear some interesting conversations that you may want to jump in on or maybe just listen to. But you can also listen to the public service bands on a scanner like I showed down in my kitchen. You can listen to shortwave like I showed you out in my garage, or you can actually stream some of the shortwave stations on a computer if you think you might want to do it that way before you invest in a radio. If you do think it's something you're interested in, I would advise you to check out ARRL.org, and that's the American Radio Relay League. They bill themselves as the National Association for Amateur Radios, so they have a lot of information on their website. Also, just do a Google search on your local community, see if they have a ham radio club. We happen to have one here in town, so I'm fortunate in that aspect. Sometime in every June, I think that the ARRL has what they call a field day, which is where ham radio clubs and individuals will go out somewhere in a field. I think here locally they go to a park, and they just try to run for 24 hours off of generator power or battery power and practice their emergency communication skills. That's something fun maybe to get involved with. Again, I incorporate radios into some of my other hobbies. I like to take them out hiking. Anytime you think you may be in an area without cell reception, they're good. It's a good idea to have them. Also, if there's a chance of severe weather, a lot of the local repeaters will have severe weather nets, and so that's a good thing to have. Well, that's going to do it this time for Axum Outdoor Adventure. I know this video has been a little different than some of the videos I normally do, but radio is such an important hobby to me that I incorporate into my other hobbies that I just kind of wanted to share it, and hopefully some people will enjoy this. Well, that's going to do it this time on Axum Outdoor Adventures. I know this video has been a little different than some of the videos I normally do, but radio is such an important hobby to me to incorporate into my other hobbies of hiking or going out slingshotting, or you can take them hunting with you, that I thought some other people might enjoy learning a little bit about it. In addition to the other sources that I mentioned, also feel free to drop me an email or a comment if you have other questions about radio. I'm certainly not the most knowledgeable person in the world about radio, but I could maybe steer you in the right direction if I can't answer your questions outright. If you enjoy these videos, don't forget to go down and hit subscribe. Also, remember to give us a like And don't forget to hit that bell icon so that you can get alerts anytime we put out new content. Thanks for watching.